Welcome to The Beam, where curiosity stirs conversations, taking us a step further into the future we desire. Here we bring you the issues that matter, the voices that challenge, and the insights that inspire. I'm Sunes Nathaniel. And now, before we get into today's powerful conversation, let's bring you a spotlight. Stick with us. It promises to be highly engaging. And when we come back, we have a conversation that you really want to be a part of. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Today we turn our attention to the heart of the national conversation around faith, justice, and power. Nigeria stands as a crossroads, and questions about religious tolerance, political fairness, and the very structure of our own union have been more urgent a question. It's never been more urgent a question than it is now. From claims of targeted violence to controversial presidential pardons, the search for peace and good leadership continues. Joining me now is Reverend Joseph Hayab, Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in the 19 northern states and the FCT. He's a peace advocate and country director of the Global Peace Foundation. Sir, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon, Nigerians.
It's funny sometimes. We just need to laugh at some of the problems, right? Because I saw you chuckle when I was talking about some of the issues at hand. Let me start this way. Let's start this conversation this way. Is Nigeria's problem a religion, or is Nigeria's biggest problem religion?
Thank you very much once again. Let's put it this way. Nigeria's problems are multifaceted, but if you are looking at the big problem in Nigeria, honestly, to me, we have two big problems. One, bad leadership. Two, ignorance. There are so many ignorant people in Nigeria that can jump into conclusions about everything without asking questions, without even knowing the details. This set of ignorant people can also be used by any selfish person to magnify a very simple matter into a big matter. Unfortunately, in the leadership Nigerians have gotten in the last 65 years, a large part of it has not been leadership has been decisive. This is what the law says, this is what our constitution says, this is how we should govern. Let's do it, but we're trying to be careful. We want to please some people. We don't want someone to be hurt. And then because we have that vacuum, people take the laws into their hands, cause fellow citizens pains, bring about mayhem, and nobody seems to be doing enough to checkmate them and show them that we have a government, we have a law. So we just get ourselves into this. The large chunk of the masses are ignorant of so many things, and a section of the country seems to have a lot of ignorant things going on, and government is not doing what she's supposed to do. So everybody just take advantage of some of those gaps and cause people pain, and nobody is doing anything, or what is being done is not good enough to show people that, look, your right stops when the right of the fellow or the other person starts. So people just keep abusing the rights of fellow citizens. Just ask questions. You have some groups, okay, enough is enough of this. We are going to take the laws into our hands, or we want to help ourselves since help is not coming. And when we allow people to help themselves, lowliness come in. But I believe that if we can address these two things, our problems will be solved in a twinkle of an eye. Is there love in this country? This is a country where people love one another sincerely, if you want to talk about that. But because so many ignorant people are in the field, their voices are there more than the voices of those who actually reason. Actions are the ones people see, not the actions of the ones who reason. And leadership seems not to be saying, look, ignorance is not an excuse. Or fight against that ignorance, correct it with education, correct it with certain services that government seems supposed to be providing. Then they keep feeling that, oh, we are on top of the world. Nobody is asking a question.
All right.
No, people certain question, let them know that there's a law in this country.
All right, now let's get into this conversation proper, because we're starting from the point where that's narrative about Christians being, haunted, Christians being the ones being, targeted. It's still lingering everywhere. I mean, it's almost like the more we keep trying to quash it, the more we keep trying to speak about it, to make sure that those fears are doused, it seems like it's not going anywhere. And besides you being an advocate for peace, you are a reverend. Now the question, in all honesty, that growing claim about Christians being targeted? What is your real, just, true assessment of the situation?
If you move out of your comfort zone and you enter into communities, what you see is innocent Nigerians struggling to survive, struggling to grow, struggling to feed, struggling to take care of their children. But as you sit among those innocent Nigerians who are struggling to survive, struggling to feed their children, struggling to grow, you see some Nigerians who now abuse them or abuse their rights. And when such right is being abused, it brings about anger. It provokes reaction. If you ask me as a pastor and as a Christian, and as someone who has been in the field working, is there persecution on Christians? I would not be honest to you to say there is none. If I'm going to be honest with you, I will tell you there is an ongoing Christian persecution. There has always been an ongoing Christian persecution, especially from the north. With certain activities or attitude or certain actions, you can't say it does not exist. The only thing is that when we go further in the conversation, I can tell you where there is shift, where there is understanding. I'll give you an example. I come from Kaduna State. 6 years ago or 8 years ago, virtually every week, either a large number of Christian population in Kaduna were either killed or kidnapped. Someone would tell me, but Pastor, these killings and kidnapping was not just exclusively to Christian. And I can tell him, brother, when it comes to Christian victims, it was something else. It was something else. I know, and for people who do not know, I actually was part of those who did the mass burial of the Sharia crisis of 2000, so I know what my eyes saw. I was also privileged to be among the clergy that did the mass burial for 2002. That's the Miss World Beauty pageant. So I know what my eyes saw. But because we have grown past that now, but we wouldn't say that things like that never exist. And then you can continue all the other killings, all the other activities. And what was the reason for the killing? From development practitioners, what we simply say, it is a farmers-herders conflict. And I've argued it severally and say the reason why peace advocates have not been able to solve that problem is because we are giving a sickness a wrong name. And so the medication that is being applied is a wrong medication. You see, when you say it is a farmers-herders conflict, I will quickly remind you that where is the farm? Where are the herders or the farmers when innocent women are sleeping in their rooms and someone comes in chanting a religious slogan, cut off their head, chop off the heads of their children? Because when you see the killing, you know, children are not being spared, women are not being spared, men are not being spared, and the person will go further to even burn their religious place. When you still want to call that farmers herders, no wonder development workers have been collecting huge money for years and write good reports, but attitudes have not changed, because that's not the problem.
So what is the problem?
The problem is some elements, either terrorists, either bandits, either fanatics, or whatever you call them, in their own worldview, and that's why I talk about ignorance, feel certain people supposed not to belong. And if you begin to attack people because of their identity and you don't want them to belong, what do you call that? It's persecution. Has it reached the stage of genocide? This is where I always don't want to join people in that argument, because when you call something genocidal, you have to define it to fit in, one, the definition of genocide, and to also fit in what the United Nations or the ICC could consider to be genocide. But there is killing. For me, if you kill 10 people, it's painful. If you kill 20 people, it's painful. If you kill 200 people, it's painful. Unfortunately for us, when we're trying to manage this, because we keep denying the facts, then somebody helped us to put on an outrageous figure. And now we are struggling to correct his figure. Because sadly, because we really not first agree that certain things were wrong and supposed not to be, then someone just throw up a figure and say 500,000 Christians have been killed. Or 100,000 Christians have been killed. And I say, wait a minute, I've been in this for a long time. That number is outrageous. But is there killing? Yes. It is the outrageous number that becomes a confession. So all we needed to do is to admit that something has been going on wrong, not good for our country, not good for our togetherness, not good for our unity. See, I have said this in many fora, and I want to repeat it in your platform, that in some part of northern Nigeria, and I can mention states, Katsina State, Kano State is one of them. A Christian cannot buy land and build a church. He will be told, they will write it down. We can push out the document. They will say, this must not be for a church or beer parlor. And you just ask yourself, so you have nothing to even equate my faith with. You equate it with beer parlor. That's really painful. The killings may not be as painful as some of this because it is just making you look, they finish you, you have nothing to show you exist. Admission, quota that we're supposed to enjoy. You have 265, you're still not given admission to certain courses. And your crime is not because you're not qualified. Your crime simply is you bear Joseph, you bear John, you bear Peter. We've challenged that severally. In many of these states today, as much as teachers have been engaged to teach religious study, but Christian religious study, not here. Someone will even tell you that Christian CRK, not in our state. When you have a country where people abuse procedure, abuse their constitution, where the constitution gives everybody the freedom to practice his religion. And we're not just talking about teaching religion, we're thinking of the morals. Show me a good neighbor who only thinks his child should be responsible and my child should be a bad child. I think something is wrong. So those are the things that accumulate into this issue that today we are debating whether it's genocide. I'm not talking about genocide. I'm talking about persecution exists. People are not being treated right. If we establish that, then we start. We are lucky that at least in the past 2 years, there is some shift. I can say this authoritatively because at least from 2023 May to today, killings are going on. No one can doubt it. But at least for Kaduna, it's a different story. For some other part, at least when I reach out to many of the country chairmen of our states in the north, they say, yes, truly, sir, in the last 6 months, probably 8, sometimes even 1 year, we've not had what we used to have before. So there is a shift. There is a progress. But first acknowledge the problem so that you can find solution and then celebrate the shift, celebrate the success that's been recorded and see how do you sustain it so that we don't go back to the past again.
Reverend, I'm going to hold you there quickly. While we were speaking, we were joined by Barrister Ezeala Chukwuma, and he's a lawyer, government expert, and civil society leader. Barrister, you're going to be speaking when we come back right from this break. We're going to be watching this very short break, and when we come back from this break, we come back into the governance aspect of this very important conversation. Please don't go away. It promises to be highly engaging from here on. Go ahead. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we have been in conversation with Reverend Joseph Hayab, and now we're going to be joined by Barrister Chukwuma Ezeala. We're speaking about faith, justice. We're talking about peace. We're talking about the way forward for this nation. Let me bring you into our conversation, Barrister. We have just been talking about the figures. We started off with the figures where it comes to people saying, hey, Christians have been the ones being, targeted when it comes to these killings. While I don't want you to go from that beginning, I want you to begin from the point where government systems are the ones or are the reasons these kind of arguments are coming up. Justice system is the reason why these arguments are coming up. Where do we go from here? Take it from there.
You see, perception is always very important in governance. Where you don't have good perception, it becomes a problem for citizens to understand. I don't know whether, can you hear me well?
Clearly, go ahead.
Okay, good. So when you have a system of government where the government is not looking at the perception of the citizens, it becomes a very big problem. Now, just look at the killings you have, particularly in the north. Whether it's by Boko Haram or whether it's by bandits, the kidnappings that you see, there is this perception that the Christians are always involved. In fact, before I came into the studio, I've been having discussions with a lot of my friends that are in the northern part of the country, particularly in Yola, in Kaduna, and others. So the perception is that Christians are targeted. Even people that have been kidnapped, you see a lot of pastors have been kidnapped, a lot of reverend fathers have been kidnapped, a lot of people that have to do with Christian religion have been kidnapped. And by the way, the United States Congress, they won't start saying anything without having some investigation or without hearing some of the things that happen. I think the government must try. But what is important is security of all citizens. If nobody is dying, nobody will be saying that a particular group or a particular section is targeted. Government must stand up today, look at justice. And at the center of it is the issue of justice. Justice to everybody, justice to every ethnic group, justice to every religion, whether it's traditional, whether it's Christian, or whether it's Muslim religion, there has to be justice. People must be treated as individuals because we were all created as individuals. We were not created as Christians or as Muslims or as traditionalists, but we are all created here as now citizens of Nigeria. So
right. Let me just quickly ask you again. We are about going into a very important season of electioneering and elections coming on, right? How much should a discussion like this, how much should a topic like this play a vital role in what is going to determine where we go from here, who we go with from here? How much of it should play into, into the narrative when it comes to even, looking at the fact that we just have a new INEC chairman coming on and all that? What are the kind of things we should be saying as from the youths to the general public? What are the kind of things we should be talking about in shaping the narrative heading to that election? Barrister, you might need to unmute yourself.
I do not know whether to... Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead now.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Clearly, go ahead.
Okay, clearly.
We can hear you
INEC,
clearly.
because when you say government, these are the rulers, including INEC. INEC may not be effective, but then INEC should work. I don't know also whether to say should improve its image, because from all indication, Nigeria has not seen a good image of INEC. We have seen some snippets when you talk about Humphrey Nwosu, when you talk about relatively Jega, but in totality, we cannot actually say that the image of INEC is good in whatever name it has always, whether it was NEC, whether it was Febeco. So INEC should, at this stage, work hard for us to have confidence. If you go to Ghana, you will see the level of confidence they have in their electoral commission. People should be able to predict this is who is going to win the election. People should be able, their votes should count. And when you change votes, when you don't have very good officers on ground, when you don't care about what happens when they change the election votes, then it's still a larger problem that impacts on the society. When you look at what happened in Kenya, when you look at the sister areas, sister countries, South Africa, you see that many of them have an above confidence on their electoral commission. But in Nigeria, the last one was a terrible one. How do you explain? It may have been a genuine mistake. But how do you explain two elections, one presidential, one national assembly? National assembly was uploaded. Presidential was not uploaded because of a glitch. We must restore the confidence of the people. People must also understand that when they vote, it should count.
All right. Let's come back to the studio now. Reverend, you've heard what he said. Now let's come back and fix it to that discussion we started off with. Where does forgiveness and trust, how does it look, to shape that future of peace and progress that we're looking for in this nation? Because we're not really here to point at accusing fingers per se. We're here to chart a course for the future. And so the question then becomes, how does forgiveness show up? Where does trust come in? How do we blend this for peace? Not just in Nigeria, it transcends Nigeria, because if this nation is peaceful, then a lot of the other countries within our borders, start to feel something different.
In Christian theology and life generally, forgiveness comes in as a result of acknowledgement of wrong. If I hurt you and I acknowledge that, I'm sorry, it wasn't deliberate, I'm not going to do that again, it's easy for you to clear. But once you live in denial, then it's a deliberate and intentional way of doing it. I believe that as Nigerian faith community, we must begin to speak honestly and truthfully to ourselves. Where a Christian wrongs a Muslim, that Christian should be humble enough and godly to admit, I did wrong. I misrepresented you. I said negative things about you. I'm deeply sorry. That healing will come in. Where a Muslim also does the same thing, Muslims should be honest too. Something ever happened in Kaduna, and I want to share it on this studio today. In 2000 and 2002, we had Sharia crisis and we have Miss World Beauty Pageant crisis. We then resolved as faith leaders in Kaduna that we don't want violence anymore. Something happened in 2005 in Makarfi. I was then the Camp Secretary for Kaduna State. The Muslim leaders of Kaduna came in their number to our office to say, look, that which happened in Makarfi was caused by our children. We are sorry. People may have forgotten. Kaduna was able to stay for 9 years without violence. Check the record. Until 2011, from 2002 until 2011, when we had the post-election violence, when Jonathan was elected and so many things, when Kaduna was not the only state, but actually many other states in the north had problems about that. So when we begin to speak truthfully to each other, we forgive each other, we heal. I can't preach Christianity and don't forgive. Because the Bible says, I forgive so that I too will be forgiven. So forgiveness is important. But where you can find the reason why forgiveness has become a little bit difficult is even in the court of law. See, when the perpetrator of an evil act is brought to justice, it brings some relief to the victims. But where someone burnt your house, someone killed your son, someone stole your property, and you have been asked, don't call him a thief. And you know he stole it. Instead of you having relief, anger will develop. So Nigerians must learn from the point of faith to forgive.
All right.
But how do we get forgiveness? When we begin to honestly admit where things are wrong and correct it. And that's what we are preaching in most of our peace advocacy.
All right.
Can there be forgiveness in the grassroots? Because that's where it starts. Can there be forgiveness as children grow? They grow to see each other as one. They grow to see each other as fellow human being, with respect, with dignity. Then we are changing the story of Nigeria.
All right. Barrister Ezeala, you're going to have the last take. In just 2 minutes, go from what you have seen the president do in recent times to what needs to be done to put this nation on the course, as we speak towards peace. Barrister Ezeala, go from the pardon, go from every other thing, and then go straight into where we are going for peace. Barrister, go ahead. Yes.
When you think of peace, just like my colleague said, when you go for peace, you must be clear that you want justice. Justice must be explicitly shown. Now, when you look at the pardon the president has granted, it's a very unfortunate thing. And why do I say it's a very unfortunate system? Why did the inventors of the Constitution get this issue of prerogative of mercy? Prerogative of mercy is when there is a harsh system in the law, then the president weighs in. You don't just weigh in to grant pardon. Just like the misunderstanding now. There is pardon to drug convicts, there is pardon to kidnappers. It is wrong. You are not promoting justice. Just because justice is a three-way thing. Justice to the states, justice to the victim, and justice to the accused. So the convict now, from all it becomes that you are now just giving justice to the accused. You're no longer giving to the state and to the injured, the person that killed the husband. The family are still grieving and you're granting pardon. The person that has been kidnapping, those kidnapped are not happy and you're granting pardon. We need to be very careful.
Okay.
We need to be sure that yes.
Thank you, Barrister. It's unfortunate that you didn't join us on time, but we must thank you, Reverend Joseph Hayab and Barrister Ezeala, for your insights and coming to share what you deeply feel. We really appreciate you coming on the program.
Thank you too, and we wish Nigerians the best.
All right. Okay, yes, that's the much we can take on the program today. I'm Sunes Nathaniel, and as always, we're going to be leaving you with our top 5 videos. Please stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep beaming your light where it matters the most. May this nation continue to rise and flourish. Bye for now. This week, we begin our countdown with a clip in which we see the Lagos police arrest one suspect, recover arms, ammunition, and illicit drugs.
I'm holding locally fabricated firearms here, which were recovered from armed robbers early hours of this morning. Coming forth on our list, Barrister Inibe Effiong calls for arrest and probe
of the recently ousted Minister of Science, Innovation and Digital Economy, Mr. Uche Nnaji.
This minister must be immediately suspended. Pending conclusion of investigation, he must be referred to a law. He has to surrender himself tomorrow morning.
Coming second on our list, we have a clip that covers the heated argument between a lawmaker from Abia State and the Speaker of the House of Representatives with regards to Nnamdi Kanu's case.
Mr. Speaker, please be guided. Mr. Speaker, it's a matter of life and death.
Please,
my constituent life is at stake.
I am trying to tell you the procedure.
The House, Mr.
This
Speaker.
is not right.
Coming second on our list, we have a clip that covers Senator Natasha's return to office as the Senate resumes plenary following a 10-week recess. In first place this week, we have a video that shows members of the National Association of Nigerian Students threatening to block federal roads if Dangote refinery is sabotaged. That's it on our countdown today. Join us next week for more.